26 mythic symbols show up everywhere across the ancient world. You can find the exact same symbols carved into pyramids in Egypt, temples in Mesoamerica, and tombs in China, even though these cultures were separated by vast oceans and thousands of years. This is not a fictional plot, but a genuine historical mystery that has puzzled experts for centuries. By the end of this journey, you will understand the powerful forces that created this universal symbolic language. We will explore whether these patterns are proof of a forgotten global civilization, or if they reveal something fundamental about the human mind itself. What is the one symbol from the ancient world that always captures your imagination? A lone researcher works late into the night, the soft glow of a lamp illuminating maps and sketches spread across a large wooden table. Scattered among them are photographs of Mayan temples, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and ancient Celtic stones. At first, the task seems overwhelming, a chaotic jumble of disparate cultures. But then a pattern emerges. The same shapes, the same figures appear again and again, leaping across continents and millennia. This is the universal puzzle, and at its heart are 26 specific symbols. These are not random scratches or simple decorations. They are profound archetypes, a symbolic vocabulary for the human experience. We have the spiral, found etched on stones in Ireland and painted in caves in Arizona, representing the journey of life and cosmic energy. There is the labyrinth, a complex pathway seen on Cretan coins and in Hopi traditions, symbolizing a quest for the center of one's being. The mighty world tree appears in Norse mythology as Yggdrasil and in Siberian shamanism, connecting the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. And then there is the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, an ancient symbol of eternity and the cyclical nature of existence found in both Egypt and Greece. Together, these 26 symbols form a kind of core library. They represent the most fundamental concepts any human mind can contemplate: life, death, creation, destruction, the cosmos, and our place within it. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung would later study these recurring forms, naming them part of the collective unconscious. He proposed they are innate psychic structures, fundamental patterns buried deep within all of us, waiting to be expressed. So when an artist in ancient China carved a dragon and a sculptor in ancient Mesoamerica fashioned a feathered serpent, they were not copying each other. They were both tapping into the same deep, shared well of human imagination. Now that we know what these symbols are, the real mystery begins. Why did this specific set of images become humanity's universal language? The spiral's path winds its way through humanity's oldest stories. In the deep darkness of a European cave, a shaman's hand traces its coiled form onto the cold stone, a ritual act of connection. Far across the world, a priest in ancient Peru carefully etches the same shape into a massive stone calendar, aligning it with the movements of the heavens. And under the vast outback sky, an Aboriginal storyteller paints the spiral in the sand, a temporary map of an eternal journey. This is not a coincidence, it is a chorus. The spiral is our first universal symbol, a shared fingerprint of the human mind. Its presence is staggering in its geographic range, from the immense passage tomb of Newgrange in Ireland, where it greets the winter solstice sun, to the vast geoglyphs of the Nazca Desert in Peru. What profound idea did this simple, elegant form capture so perfectly? Scholars propose it could be the path of the sun across the sky, the relentless turn of the seasons, or perhaps the soul's own voyage to the afterlife. It is the ultimate symbol of cyclical existence, a concept so fundamental to life itself that cultures separated by entire oceans all arrived at the same visual conclusion. The spiral's quiet prevalence across the globe is our first major clue, a hint of a shared, intuitive understanding written not in words but in stone and spirit. A young man stands at the entrance to the Minotaur's maze, his heart pounding not just with fear, but with a strange sense of purpose. Centuries later and a world away, a pilgrim walks the winding path of the labyrinth at Chartres Cathedral, each step a silent prayer. And on the dry earth of the American Southwest, a Hopi elder carefully draws a nearly identical pattern in the sand, a sacred map for a spiritual seeker. These are not just similar designs, they are the same profound story told in stone, in tile, and in dust. The labyrinth is our second universal symbol, and its message is clear. It is the archetype of the quest. Unlike a maze which is built to confuse and trap, the labyrinth offers a single, twisting, but ultimately unbroken path to the center. There are no dead ends, only the certainty of a long and winding road. This crucial distinction reveals a shared human optimism. The journey to find our core, our inner truth, or our connection to the divine is understood to be difficult, but it is not impossible. The destination is guaranteed for those who persist. We see this same unwavering path in the intricate mandalas of India and Tibet, where monks create stunning geometric worlds only to destroy them, a reminder that the true center is within, not in the external form. The labyrinth's widespread presence tells us that the concept of a spiritual journey, a difficult but directed search for meaning amidst the confusion of life, is not just a theme in a few mythologies. It is a fundamental blueprint of the human spirit, a pattern we all seem to recognize on a soul-deep level. This profound journey inward, seeking the still point at the center of our own existence, leads us directly to our next symbol, one that takes this cyclical journey and makes it eternal. In a dusty Alexandrian library, an alchemist's lamp illuminates a manuscript. There, coiled upon the page, is a serpent devouring its own tail. This exact image, known as the Ouroboros, appears in an Egyptian funerary text over 1,000 years older. It is our third universal symbol, a stunning and visceral representation of infinity itself. The message is both simple and profound. The end is the beginning. This single, self-contained loop embodies the eternal cycle of death and rebirth, the unbroken circle where creation and destruction are one and the same. We find it in Norse mythology, where the great serpent Jörmungandr encircles the world, biting its own tail. We see its echo in the plumed serpent gods of Mesoamerica, deities of both life-giving rain and destructive storms. This was not just a philosophical idea, it was a conclusion drawn from observing the world. Ancient astronomers watched the sun die each evening only to be reborn at dawn. They tracked the stars that vanished for a season only to return to the same point in the sky. The Ouroboros is the ultimate symbol of this cosmic truth, that time is not a straight line but a great revolving wheel. Its independent conception across the globe points to a universal human grappling with the greatest mystery of all, the nature of existence itself. And this eternal cycle of death and rebirth finds its most majestic expression in our next symbol, one that connects the heavens, the earth, and everything in between. From the eternal cycle of the serpent, we ascend to a pillar of cosmic stability. High in the frigid north, the immense ash tree Yggdrasil of Norse myth stands with its roots gnawed by serpents and its branches scratching the heavens, binding 9 separate worlds together. Then, in the humid jungles of the Maya, the towering ceiba tree is revered as a sacred pillar, its roots delving into the dark underworld of Xibalba and its crown supporting the starry vault of the sky. This is the world tree, our fourth universal symbol, known to scholars as the axis mundi. It is the central axis of the universe, the unwavering pole around which all of creation spins. We see it in the Siberian shaman's birch tree, which he climbs to journey between the realms of spirit and man. We see its precise geometry in the intricate Sephirot of the Kabbalistic tree of life, a map of divine energy descending from the infinite to the earthly. This is not merely a symbol of nature's bounty, it is humanity's shared blueprint for a structured cosmos. It answers a deep, instinctual need for a center, a fixed point of reference in a vast and often chaotic universe. The world tree tells us that order exists, that heaven, earth, and the underworld are connected by a single, living pillar. It is a ladder for prayers to ascend and for divine wisdom to descend, a source of ultimate life and a testament to a fundamental cosmic symmetry. This powerful concept of a central, organizing pillar, however, inevitably gives rise to another profound pattern, one that explores the dynamic tension created by two opposing forces that define its very structure. Yet the stability of the great world tree is born from a dynamic tension. Look closely at its trunk, and you may see the fifth universal symbol emerge, two serpents locked in an eternal, graceful dance. In ancient Greece, the staff of Hermes, the messenger of the gods, was wound with a pair of entwined serpents. This exact motif appears in the ancient Indian traditions of Kundalini Yoga, where twin channels of psychic energy, Ida and Pingala, spiral up the spine. And across the Atlantic, the Maya kings held a ceremonial bar known as the double-headed serpent, a symbol of their power to bridge the earthly and divine realms. This is the dual serpent, a symbol not of conflict but of sacred balance. It represents the vital union of opposing forces that create the whole, male and female, life and death, the conscious mind and the deep unconscious. This symbol is far more than a simple medical emblem. It is a metaphysical map for integration, a visual instruction for achieving wholeness. The fact that cultures with no conceivable contact all visualize the path to enlightenment, healing, or divine knowledge as two serpents moving in perfect harmony is staggering. It suggests a shared understanding that true power, whether spiritual or royal, comes not from one dominant force, but from the delicate, active balance between polarities. This profound insight into cosmic equilibrium leads our gaze upward, to the symbols that map the perfect, predictable movements of the heavens themselves. This simple design of a circle quartered by a cross appears with an insistence that defies coincidence. Etched into a sun-baked rock in Arizona, carved deep into a granite slab in Ireland, and cast in bronze for a Chinese emperor's ritual, the sun cross emerges as our sixth universal symbol. It is humanity's first and most enduring infographic, a complete cosmological model in a single, elegant form. The circle represents the sun itself, the source of all life, while the cross within it maps the fundamental structures of reality. Its four arms point to the cardinal directions north, south, east, and west, creating a sacred boundary and defining ordered space within the chaos of the unknown. These same arms mark the four pivotal seasons, the solstices and equinoxes that govern the agricultural year. They even correspond to the four classical elements: earth, air, fire, and water, the essential components of the material world. What is so incredible is that this was not a symbol passed from one culture to another like a secret. It was a conclusion independently drawn by countless minds simply watching the sky. They saw the sun rise and set, they felt the year turn, and from that universal observation they created the same map. The sun cross is proof that our earliest ancestors were not just surviving, they were actively charting the cosmos, seeking to understand their place within its perfect, repeating cycles. This universal symbol of cosmic order and solar power laid the foundation for humanity's next great leap, the personification of that celestial force into a being of immense power and judgment. But the sun's distant, ordered power was mirrored by a more immediate, earthly force. Deep in a European forest, a figure is carved into stone, seated with the calm posture of a king, yet crowned with the branching antlers of a stag. This is Cernunnos, the Celtic lord of the forest, thousands of miles away on a seal from the ancient Indus Valley. A nearly identical figure sits in the same cross-legged pose surrounded by animals. He is Pashupati, a name that literally means Lord of all animals. And in the frozen expanses of Siberia, shamanic rock art depicts figures with horns, communing with the spirits of the wild. This is the horned god, our seventh universal symbol, and he is the untamed soul of the natural world. He is not a god of cities or temples, but of the deep woods and the open plains. His antlers are not a sign of menace, but of his intimate connection to the animal kingdom, a crown of living bone that speaks of fertility, virility, and the raw, cyclical power of life, death, and rebirth. He represents the wilderness that both sustained and threatened early human societies, the source of the hunt and the home of predators. As a mediator between the civilized world and the untamed wild, the horned god embodies a profound understanding. He is the guardian of the balance, a reminder that humanity is not separate from nature, but a part of its powerful, often dangerous, and deeply sacred web. The universal reverence for this archetype points to a shared memory of a time when our survival depended directly on respecting this powerful, masculine life force. Yet this master of the earthly realm is only one half of a greater cosmic story, a story that finds its ultimate expression in the union of two primal powers. While the horned god ruled the wild woods, another power held sway over the hearth and the harvest. From the deep, Ice Age caves of Europe emerges a small, carved figure of limestone, the Venus of Willendorf. Her exaggerated curves speak not of vanity but of survival, a celebration of life-giving abundance. Then, from the sun-baked deserts of Egypt, we meet the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet, a deity of such fierce vengeance she could nearly destroy humanity, yet also a powerful healer. In the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia, the goddess Inanna descends into the underworld, embodying both the fertile spring and the barren winter. And high in the Andes, the earth herself is Pachamama, a living, conscious being who gives life and demands respect. This is the eighth universal symbol, the Great Mother, the Earth Goddess. She is the most fundamental archetype of all, the source from which everything comes and to which everything must eventually return. She is not a single personality, but a profound duality. She is the warm, nurturing womb that provides grain, water, and shelter, the comforting mother who ensures her children thrive. But she is also the terrifying power of the earthquake, the destructive flood, and the unforgiving drought. Her duality reflects humanity's most basic and universal experience. The earth itself gives us life, and it can just as easily take it away. This archetype arose independently because every human culture, no matter where it was born, shared the same core realities. They all knew the miracle of birth, the necessity of a mother's nurture, the joy of a bountiful harvest, and the terror of a failed one. The Great Mother was humanity's first and most intimate relationship with the divine, a direct conversation with the forces that sustained their very existence. This profound connection to the nurturing and fearsome earth, however, would eventually inspire humanity to look up from the soil and seek to measure the perfect, predictable movements of the heavens above. From the fertile plains of the earth, the human gaze turned upward, and the hands that once tilled the soil began to pile stone upon stone. The result was our ninth universal symbol, the step pyramid. This is not merely an architectural style, it is a shared dream made manifest in stone. In Mesopotamia, the great ziggurat of rose like a stairway for the gods to descend. In the jungles of Guatemala, the vast complex of Tikal reached for the sky with its towering step temples. And in the Mississippi River Valley, the people of Cahokia built immense earthen mounds, creating a sacred landscape of ascending platforms. Why would cultures with no contact all choose this exact same form? because they were not just building structures, they were constructing symbolic mountains. In every mythology, the highest peak was where heaven and earth met. By building their own mountains, these ancient peoples created a bridge, a focal point where the human and the divine could communicate. The stepped layers often represented the tiers of the cosmos itself, a physical map of the journey from the earthly realm to the celestial one. Each level ascended was a step closer to the gods. This profound, shared architectural vision reveals a universal human impulse to reach beyond our world and touch the sacred. And the very structure of these cosmic stairways points to a deeper, more mysterious pattern hidden within the fabric of reality itself, a pattern written not in stone but in number. The stones of the step pyramid were not just arranged by architectural need, but by a sacred numerical code. Lifting their eyes from these man-made mountains, ancient astronomers discovered another universal pattern written in the night sky, one that would become our 10th shared symbol, the sacred number 7. Its resonance is everywhere. Our week is divided into 7 days, each one named for a celestial body visible to the naked eye. In the spiritual traditions of India, 7 energy centers, the chakras, align along the human spine. The sacred menorah of Judaism burns with 7 flames, and in the bleak myths of Mesopotamia, the underworld was said to have 7 terrifying layers. This was not a random choice. The number 7 symbolized a state of completion and cosmic perfection, a divine order imprinted on the universe itself. The source of this universal veneration was almost certainly the 7 wanderers they observed moving against the fixed backdrop of stars. The sun and the moon, along with the 5 visible planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, formed a perfect celestial council of 7. From Babylon to China, from Greece to the Maya lands, these 7 lights in the sky were seen as the arbiters of fate and the architects of time. The number 7 became a key, a numerical archetype that unlocked the structure of myth and the rhythm of ritual. It provided a framework for the cosmos that felt both observable and profoundly holy. This human impulse to find order in the heavens, to map the perfect movements of celestial bodies, would eventually lead to a symbol that attempted to capture the very blueprint of existence, the fundamental geometry from which all reality is woven. This delicate balance between the celestial and the earthly reveals a pattern even more intricate than a simple ladder to the stars. In the cold mists of the Norse world, 3 powerful sisters known as the Norns sit at the base of the world tree, spinning threads on a vast loom. Each thread is a human life, and their weaving determines the fate of all beings. Far to the south, in the warm forests of West Africa, the trickster god Anansi, the spider, spins his clever webs, ensnaring problems and weaving stories that connect all creatures. And in the profound philosophy of Buddhism, there exists the metaphor of Indra's net, a cosmic web stretching to infinity. At every intersection of this net hangs a perfect jewel, and each jewel reflects every other jewel in the entire universe. This is our 11th universal symbol, the web of life. It is a stunningly sophisticated concept, the archetype of interconnectedness. The web symbolizes a universe where nothing exists in isolation, where every action sends a ripple through the entire cosmic structure. It is a symbol of fate, yes, but also of profound relational existence. Why would a Norse poet, an African storyteller, and an Eastern philosopher all arrive at the same intricate image? Because the observation was universal. Early humans saw how a single snapped vine could make a whole forest canopy tremble. They understood that the success of the hunt depended on the harmony of the herd, the skill of the hunter, and the favor of the spirits. They lived in tight-knit social networks where one person's decision could impact the entire tribe. The web was a philosophical conclusion drawn from life itself, a visual representation of a fundamental truth, that we are all linked in a delicate, vibrating tapestry of cause and effect. This profound insight into the interconnected nature of all things finds its purest, most mathematical expression in the next great family of symbols, the immutable laws of sacred geometry. This sacred geometry of interconnected circles creates a shape of profound significance. Two perfect circles overlap, and in the space where they meet, an almond-like form appears. In the shimmering mosaics of a Byzantine church, this shape, called the Vesica Piscis, frames the figure of Christ in majesty, a glowing aura of divine light. Travel across the world to a serene temple in Japan, and you will find the Buddha seated within an identical almond-shaped frame, known there as a mandorla. This is our 12th universal symbol, and its meaning is as precise as its geometry. It is the sacred threshold. The two circles represent two unified realms, the spiritual and the material, heaven and earth. The space where they intersect is a passage, a divine doorway through which the sacred enters our world. It is a symbolic womb of creation, the moment a god manifests in a form that human eyes can perceive. That the same perfect shape was used to frame the most holy figures in both Christianity and Buddhism is not a case of artistic plagiarism. It is a shared geometric intuition about the nature of revelation itself. The mystics of the East and the geometers of the West, working in complete isolation, both arrived at the same conclusion, that the intersection of the divine and the mundane creates a specific, measurable, and beautiful space. This perfect geometric form hints at an underlying order to the cosmos, an order that some ancient traditions believed was not just seen, but heard, a fundamental vibration humming at the foundation of all things. That perfect geometric threshold, that sacred space of manifestation, leads us back to the very beginning of all things. Before the web of life was spun, before the sun cross marked the heavens, there was a state of pure, silent potential. This is the cosmic egg, our 13th universal symbol. In the ancient Egyptian city of Memphis, the creator god Ptah was said to have hatched from an egg that emerged from the dark, formless waters of chaos, standing upon the first mound of earth. In the mystical Orphic traditions of Greece, a silver shimmering egg was split open by the first deity, its halves becoming the sky and the earth. And in the ancient Hindu Rigveda, the entire universe is described as the Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb or the golden egg from which the cosmic man Prajapati is born. Why would an egg become the preferred metaphor for the cosmos across such vast distances? Because the observation was universally accessible. Every human, everywhere, understood that an egg is a self-contained universe. It holds within its fragile shell the complete blueprint for a new life, a perfect state of wholeness waiting to unfold. It represents the ultimate unity before the great division, the stillness before the explosion of diversity. The cosmic egg archetype reveals a profound and shared human intuition that the bewildering complexity of the world we see, with its countless stars and creatures, did not always exist. It all emerged from a singular, unified source, a primordial seed containing everything in a state of perfect, unmanifested potential. From this powerful concept of a singular origin, our symbolic journey must now expand to map the magnificent multiplicity that followed, the dazzling array of forms that burst forth from that first great cracking of the shell. This universal symbol of benign, cyclical motion brings us to one of history's most profound and tragic transformations. Etched onto a Hopi ceremonial basket, woven into a vibrant Navajo textile, and stamped onto ancient Greek coins, a simple, rotating cross appears. It is the swastika, our 14th universal symbol, and for millennia before the 20th century, its name itself meant well-being and good fortune. Its arms, bent at right angles, create a dynamic sense of rotation, a wheel of life in perpetual motion. In the spiritual traditions of Hinduism and Buddhism, it represents the auspicious footprints of the Buddha, a mark of cosmic harmony. For the ancient Celts, its spinning form mirrored the sun's journey across the sky. This was not a symbol of hatred, but a sacred diagram for blessings, a visual prayer for positive energy and the unending cycle of existence. Its independent emergence across the globe speaks to the power of its basic form, a cross set into a graceful, flowing spin. The swastika story is a sobering lesson in how a universal archetype of motion and life can be violently stripped of its original meaning and forcibly recast into something monstrous. Its history forces us to remember that these symbols are not inherently good or evil. They are vessels, and we are the ones who fill them with meaning. This potent symbol of cyclical fortune, however, is just one expression of a much larger pattern, a deep human fascination with the wheel of time and the promise of renewal that turns with it. The thunderbolt shatters the sky, a raw display of power that every human culture has witnessed with awe. In the frozen north, the Norse god Thor raises his mighty hammer, Mjolnir. It is more than a weapon, it is a divine instrument that calls the lightning and commands the storm, a tool of protection that always returns to his hand. Far to the east, the Hindu and Buddhist deity Indra holds the Vajra, a celestial thunderbolt forged from the bones of a sage. Its name means both diamond and thunderbolt, symbolizing an unbreakable, brilliant spiritual power that can shatter any illusion. This is the 15th universal symbol, the divine weapon, and it is a cross-cultural archetype of irresistible, concentrated force. It represents the ultimate authority of a sky god, the power to destroy in order to cleanse or to protect. The sheer, terrifying energy of a storm, a universal experience from the monsoons of India to the tempests of Scandinavia, provided the perfect metaphor for this kind of transcendent power. It was a force that could level mountains and purify the land, a visible manifestation of divine judgment and cosmic will. This symbol of raw, world-shaking power, however, finds its perfect counterpoint in our next symbol, one that represents not the force that breaks things apart, but the luminous consciousness that brings perfect clarity. This inner vision finds its ultimate expression in our 16th universal symbol, the third eye. From the forehead of the Hindu god Shiva, a spiritual eye gazes outward, seeing past the illusions of the material world. On the brow of a meditating Buddha, the Ajnisha, a protuberance symbolizing his supreme wisdom, marks the very same spot. And in the stark sands of Egypt, the Eye of Horus was not just a symbol of protection. It was a representation of restored wholeness and perception after a great battle, a divine eye that saw all. This is not a coincidence of artistic style, it is a shared map of consciousness. The third eye represents a faculty of knowing that transcends ordinary sight, an inner perception of intuition, enlightenment, and direct spiritual truth. Why would cultures with no contact all pinpoint the center of the forehead as the seat of this higher vision? The experience it describes is universal. Every human at some point has had a flash of insight, a moment of pure understanding that seemed to arrive not from logic, but from somewhere deeper within. A solution to a long-standing problem that appears in a dream, a sudden, unshakable knowing about a person or a situation, the profound clarity that can arrive in deep meditation. These are moments where we feel we are truly seeing for the first time. The third eye is the symbol humanity created for that universal experience. It is the archetype of the seer and the sage, a testament to a shared belief that within each of us lies a latent capacity to perceive a deeper, more fundamental reality. And this symbol of inner sight is so powerful, so essential to our spiritual armor, that it is almost always depicted alongside our next symbol, a universal emblem of safety and divine guardianship. Even with spiritual armor, the human soul must navigate the murky waters of material existence. Rising from the darkest mud, a flower of impossible beauty opens its petals to the sun. In the sacred art of ancient Egypt, a blue lotus emerges from the primordial waters at the moment of creation. In the temples of India, gods and goddesses are seated upon the pink lotus, a throne of perfect serenity. And in the tranquil ponds of East Asia, the lotus is the ultimate symbol of unblemished character. This is our 17th universal symbol, the lotus flower. Its power lies not in spite of its origin, but because of it. The entire life cycle of the lotus provides a perfect, natural metaphor for the soul's journey. It is rooted deep in the mud of the material world. It grows upward through the murky waters of experience and emotion, and it finally blossoms pristine and radiant in the clear air of enlightenment. It is a living testament to the idea that profound beauty and spiritual purity are not corrupted by their origins in darkness, but are actually forged by them. The fact that cultures living continents apart, from the Nile to the Ganges to the Yangtze, all seized upon this exact same plant to express this profound spiritual concept is staggering. It is a perfect example of parallel symbolic thought, where the same natural observation leads to the same philosophical conclusion. The lotus teaches that enlightenment is not an escape from the world, but a triumphant blossoming through it. This powerful promise of rebirth, of life emerging from death and light from darkness, finds its most direct and personal expression in the symbol that has offered humanity comfort for millennia. From the pristine purity of the lotus, we turn to a symbol of pure, transformative fire. Across the deserts of Egypt, the priests of Heliopolis revered the Bennu bird, a heron-like creature said to rise from the flames of a sacred Persea tree. 1,000 years later and 1,000 miles to the north, the poets of ancient Greece sang of the phoenix, a magnificent eagle of crimson and gold that lived for centuries before building its own fragrant funeral pyre. And in the courts of China, the fenghuang, a glorious pheasant-like bird, was an emblem of high virtue and the cyclical rise and fall of dynasties, often paired with the dragon. This is the 18th universal symbol, the phoenix or fire bird, and its story is one of the most dramatic and hopeful in the entire human lexicon. It is the ultimate archetype of resurrection. The bird's death is not an end but a necessary purification. It is consumed by a blaze of its own making, only to emerge from the ashes, newborn and vibrant, to begin its great life cycle once more. Why fire? Because fire is the element that perfectly embodies this dual nature. It is the sun's fury that can scorch the earth, and it is the same sun's warmth that coaxes new life from the soil. It is the wildfire that destroys the old forest, creating space and fertile ground for the next generation of trees. This myth is an intuitive understanding of a fundamental ecological and spiritual truth, that destruction and creation are two sides of the same coin. The independent emergence of this exact same creature, a bird that conquers death through fire, from the banks of the Nile to the shores of the Mediterranean and the palaces of China, tells us something profound about the human spirit. It reveals a shared, defiant hope that is stronger than the fear of death itself, a belief in the possibility of a fresh start, of eternal life, and of the ultimate triumph of life over oblivion. This powerful promise of cyclical renewal was not just a comforting story, it was a cornerstone of how entire civilizations understood their place in the cosmos, a rhythm of endings that were always, inevitably, new beginnings. The promise of rebirth found its most stable foundation in the patient, unmoving form of a giant. In the vast cosmology of Hinduism, the entire world rests upon the back of a divine turtle named Acupara. Across the ocean, in the rich traditions of some Native American nations like the Lenape and Iroquois, the story is strikingly similar. The earth itself is formed upon the immense shell of a great turtle, often called Turtle Island. And in ancient China, the turtle was one of the 4 sacred celestial animals, a symbol of the unmoving north and the enduring earth itself. This is our 19th universal symbol, the world turtle, and it embodies the archetype of ultimate stability. Its meaning is written in the very biology of the creature. The turtle carries its own home, its own fortress upon its back. It lives for an astonishingly long time, outlasting generations. What better metaphor could there be for the planet we live on, a seemingly unmoving foundation that has supported life for eons? This was not a case of one culture telling a story that spread. It was a shared logical conclusion. People everywhere observed the turtle's patient, grounded nature and its incredible longevity, and they saw in it a perfect image for the enduring, supportive quality of the earth beneath their feet. The world turtle represents the bedrock of existence, the primordial foundation upon which the great drama of life, with all its gods and heroes and cycles, could safely unfold. This profound sense of a stable, ancient foundation, however, inevitably gave rise to the symbols that would attempt to guard its sacred boundaries. Beneath the cosmic foundations and the promise of rebirth lies a symbol so personal it feels like a whisper across time. Pressed into the soft clay of a Mayan temple wall, 5 fingers splayed in red ochre, is a single handprint. Thousands of miles away, deep within a European cave, a Paleolithic artist placed a hand against the cold rock and blew a spray of pigment over it, leaving a ghostly negative stencil. And on a sun-baked sandstone cliff in Australia, the same positive handprints appear, a chorus of presence spanning tens of thousands of years. This is our 20th universal symbol, the handprint, and it is perhaps the most intimate of them all. While the world tree and the cosmic egg speak of vast, impersonal forces, the handprint is a declaration of the individual. It is the primal signature, a mark that says, "I am here. I exist, I made this." It is a symbol of human identity, of creativity, and of a fundamental, instinctual need to leave a tangible mark on the world. This was not about creating a complex myth or mapping the heavens. It was about the simple, powerful act of touching the world and having the world remember that touch. The handprint connects us directly to the person who made it, collapsing the millennia between us. We can almost feel the cool stone under their palm, see the breath that carried the pigment, and sense the profound human desire to assert one's own fleeting existence against the immense, silent backdrop of time. This universal impulse to mark our individual presence stands in stark contrast to the symbols of cosmic order, reminding us that the grand tapestry of myth was woven one human hand at a time. That single handprint, a declaration of an individual self, stands in stark contrast to a symbol of absolute, unified power. Gaze upon the weathered stone carvings of the ancient Hittite Empire, where a massive eagle is carved with 2 heads, each looking in a different direction. This same formidable creature appears centuries later on the royal standards of the Seljuk Turks and the Byzantine emperors, a golden emblem of their vast dominion. It soars across the coats of arms of Russia and Albania, and in a stunning parallel appears in the sacred art of Mesoamerica. This is the double-headed eagle, our 21st universal symbol, and it embodies the archetype of supreme, all-seeing authority. Its meaning is written directly into its anatomy. An eagle, the king of the skies, is a universal emblem of imperial power, but an eagle with 2 heads is something far more specific. It represents command over 2 distinct realms simultaneously. In the ancient world, this often meant authority over both the secular and the spiritual domains, the power of the throne and the power of the temple, united in one sovereign. It could also signify control over the East and the West, a claim to rule the entire world from a single, centralized seat of power. The 2 heads, forever vigilant, see in opposite directions, symbolizing a state of constant, unblinking watchfulness against threats from any quarter. That this incredibly complex and specific heraldic device, an eagle looking 2 ways at once, emerged independently in both the Old World and the New, is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the theory of archetypes. It is as if the very concept of dual sovereignty, of managing the tension between two great powers, demanded the same powerful visual metaphor. This symbol of a divided gaze, of a single entity holding two perspectives in perfect balance, introduces a profound concept, the duality of perception itself. How can one consciousness truly see two separate truths at the same time? That single-headed duality of the double-headed eagle expands into a symbol of even greater complexity and motion. Etched into the ancient stones of Celtic Ireland, a symbol of three interlocking spirals seems to spin with its own internal energy. This is the Triskelion. Then, on the flag of Sicily, you find the Trinacria, a woman's head surrounded by three bent legs running in a perpetual circle. The same three-branched form appears in the ancient Japanese tomo and in the swirling koru patterns of Maori art. This is our 22nd universal symbol, a dynamic representation of triadic power. The number 3 has always held a sacred resonance across human traditions, the Holy Trinity, the three fates, the three worlds of heaven, earth, and the underworld. The Triskelion takes this potent number and sets it into graceful, energetic motion. It embodies the idea of progress and competition, like three legs racing one another in an eternal cycle. Its spiraling arms represent the fundamental rhythms of existence, the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, or the continuous flow of the past, present, and future into one another. It is a symbol of dynamic balance where three distinct forces, often understood as the land, the sea, and the sky, are unified into a single, whirling system. That this specific, complex motif of threefold motion emerged independently in Europe, the Mediterranean, and the islands of the Pacific tells us something profound. It reveals that the number 3 was not just a counting tool, but a fundamental archetype for understanding a universe in flux. The Triskelion is the visual expression of a world governed by triadic rhythms, a world where stability is found not in stillness, but in perfect, perpetual motion. Yet for all its dynamism, this symbol of the Triad points toward the need for a more stable foundation, a structure built upon the next sacred number, the number 4, which would become the cornerstone of cosmic order. That dynamic triad, with its constant motion, finds its ultimate stability in a square. The world is frequently divided into 4. This is the Quaternary, our 23rd universal symbol, a foundational pattern of fourfold division that appears with astonishing consistency across the globe. In the heart of North America, the Native American medicine wheel arranges the cosmos around the 4 cardinal directions, each one associated with a season, an animal, a color, and a stage of life, creating a complete and balanced map of existence. At nearly the same time, on the other side of the planet, the Greek philosopher Empedocles was defining the entire material world as a combination of 4 primordial roots: earth, air, fire, and water. And in ancient China, this same 4-part structure was the basis of their entire cosmological system, with directions, seasons, mythical creatures, and virtues all carefully assigned to create a harmonious universe. Why 4? Because this number provides a simple, stable, and profoundly satisfying model for organizing reality. A cross with its 4 equal arms creates a sacred boundary. It establishes a center, and from that center, it defines the world in 4 manageable parts, banishing the terror of the unknown and the chaotic into the orderly quadrants of a comprehensible map. The universal reliance on this 4-part structure tells us something fundamental about the human mind itself. When we seek to understand the immense complexity of the cosmos, we do not reach for a triad or a pentagon as our first instinct. We naturally gravitate towards this balanced, cross-shaped template. It is the mental architecture for civilization, the structural thinking upon which entire worldviews were built, from calendars and city plans to systems of law and philosophy. And yet, this perfect, stable square would soon be set into a spin, creating the most dynamic and controversial symbol of them all. That stable, four-cornered world was also home to creatures of pure magic. From the misty valleys of ancient China emerged the Qilin, a chimera of immense gentleness with the body of a deer, the tail of an ox, and a single horn upon its head. It was a living omen of prosperity, appearing only during the reign of a wise and just ruler. Meanwhile, in the sacred texts of India, the sage Risharinga was born with a single horn, a mark of his profound purity and spiritual power. And from the dense forests of medieval Europe came the legend of the unicorn, a magnificent white horse-like beast whose single, spiraled horn could purify poisoned waters. This is our 24th universal symbol, the one-horned beast, and its meaning is as clear as it is cross-cultural. It is the archetype of ultimate purity and untamable grace. Despite their different forms, these creatures share an identical core. They are solitary, elusive, and drawn only to innocence. The European unicorn, it was said, could only be captured by a virgin, a metaphor for the soul's purity being the sole vessel capable of holding divine magic. This is not a story about a horse with a horn. It is a story about an ideal. The one-horned beast represents a spiritual state so refined it has taken animal form, a symbol of a nature uncorrupted by greed, violence, or base desire. Its consistent, independent emergence tells us that the human imagination, when dreaming of perfection, repeatedly conjures the same image, a solitary, powerful, and gentle being whose very presence sanctifies the world around it. This mythical creature acts as a perfect bridge, standing with one hoof in the known world and the other in the boundless realm of pure archetype. The sun's daily arc demanded an explanation, and the human mind provided a driver. High above in the golden chariot of Greek myth, the god Helios grips the reins of his fiery steeds, dragging the sun on its relentless path. On the other side of the world, the Hindu deity Surya rides his own celestial chariot, pulled by 7 horses representing the days of the week. And in the cold northern skies, the goddess Sol is chased by wolves, her chariot a burning emblem of the day. This is our 25th universal symbol, the chariot of the sun, and it is one of the most intuitive archetypes of all. Before anyone understood the Earth's rotation, the most logical human explanation for the sun's movement was that a powerful, conscious being was physically pulling it across the dome of the sky. The chariot was the ultimate vehicle of gods and kings, a symbol of supreme control and majestic speed. What better conveyance for the most important object in the heavens? This shared narrative framework reveals how myth seamlessly blends direct observation with profound storytelling. Different cultures watched the exact same sunrise and sunset, and they all crafted a remarkably similar story to explain it, populating the sky with divine charioteers. This celestial narrative, repeated from Greece to India to Scandinavia, brings us to the final, overarching question. Why do these 26 specific symbols, from the spiral to the sun chariot, appear everywhere? Do they point to a single, forgotten source, or do they reveal a deeper truth about the architecture of the human mind itself? So we are left with a mystery spanning continents, a puzzle with 2 very different keys. One theory suggests these symbols were carried across the globe by ancient mariners from a single, sophisticated source, a forgotten mother culture like Atlantis. This is the diffusionist argument, and it points to the uncanny, specific similarities as proof of contact. How else could the double-headed eagle appear in both Anatolia and Mesoamerica without someone, somewhere, sailing between them? It is a compelling vision of a connected ancient world, a network of trade and ideas that history has simply forgotten. The other theory proposes a far more intimate journey, one that happens not across oceans but within the mind itself. Pioneered by thinkers like Carl Jung, This archetypal theory suggests these 26 symbols are not inherited from a lost civilization, but are innate structures of the human psyche. He called this reservoir the collective unconscious, a deep, shared layer of the mind where these fundamental patterns reside. From this perspective, a shaman in Siberia and a priest in Peru both envisioned a world tree not because they exchanged letters, but because the human mind, when contemplating the cosmos, naturally constructs a central axis. One theory sees a map of ancient sea routes, the other a map of the human soul. The evidence for diffusion lies in the breathtaking precision of the parallels, the specific details that feel too coincidental. Yet the psychological theory counters with the undeniable universality of the raw experiences that inspire these symbols. Every human, everywhere, has witnessed the sunrise, felt the turning of the seasons, experienced the mystery of birth and the finality of death. Is it any wonder we would all create a symbol for the sun, or for a mother goddess, or for the cycle of life? This is the great debate at the heart of our mystery, forcing us to ask a profound question. Are we connected by forgotten boats or by the very architecture of our minds? The answer may not be a simple choice between the two, but a strange and beautiful synthesis waiting to be understood. Perhaps the most profound truth lies not in choosing one theory over the other, but in weaving them together. The human brain is a pattern-seeking organ, hardwired to find meaning in the stars and to translate the mysteries of life into symbolic form. This innate capacity is the bedrock, the source of the archetypes. It is why a culture in the Andes and a culture in the Arctic would both look at the sky and feel the need for a cosmic axis, a world tree. They started with the same fundamental mental tools, but what if, on rare and momentous occasions, a voyager from one of these cultures actually reached the shores of another? Imagine a storm-blown Polynesian canoe landing on the coast of South America, or a bold Phoenician trader circumnavigating Africa and exchanging stories. These encounters would not have been about one civilization teaching another. They would have been moments of profound recognition. A visitor points to a local symbol of the sun, and the host nods, understanding completely, and perhaps shows their own version. This faint, forgotten thread of contact would not create the symbol from nothing. Instead, it would act as a powerful catalyst, validating and refining a pattern that was already waiting in the depths of the shared human mind. It would be like two musicians who have never met independently composing a similar melody, and then one day they hear each other play. The tune does not change, but their understanding of its universality is forever deepened. This synthesized view transforms our picture of the ancient world. It suggests we were never completely isolated tribes, but a sprawling network of minds, all exploring the same great questions. Sometimes we worked in glorious isolation, painting our caves and raising our stones, and sometimes across vast and empty oceans, a signal got through, a spark of connection that reminded us we were all speaking different dialects of the same universal language. This is the holistic explanation, one that honors both the deep structure of our consciousness and the incredible, overlooked journeys of our ancestors. This hidden bridge of 26 symbols connects us not only across continents, but across the chasm of time itself. We have walked the spiral path, stood beneath the world tree, and witnessed the phoenix rise from its own ashes. The undeniable recurrence of these motifs is far more than a historical curiosity. It is a profound and lasting clue to the fundamental unity of the human spirit. Whether these patterns were seeded by forgotten voyages across ancient seas or welled up from a shared psychic bedrock deep within us, the outcome is the same. Our ancestors, in their glorious isolation and their fleeting moments of contact, were all speaking different dialects of a single, universal language. This was a symbolic vocabulary crafted to express our most profound contemplations, the nature of life and death, the majesty of the cosmos, and the elusive presence of the divine. These 26 symbols are a powerful reminder that beneath the rich tapestry of our cultures and the vast distances that once separated us, we are bound together by the same fundamental questions and the same innate capacity for awe. The mystery itself is a gift, an enduring invitation to keep looking closer at the artifacts of the past, to keep questioning the stories we have been told, and to wonder at the invisible threads that still connect us all. What does this grand puzzle mean to you? Share your own thoughts on these incredible connections in the comments below. This journey through the shared language of our ancestors is just the beginning. If these 26 symbols have sparked your curiosity, you can continue the exploration on your own. Seek out the writings of Joseph Campbell, who mapped the universal story pattern he called the hero's journey, a narrative that echoes these very symbols. Or delve into the psychological depths of Carl Jung's work on archetypes, which gives a name to the innate patterns we have witnessed. For a more tangible connection, visit a museum and stand before actual artifacts. Look closely at the pottery, the textiles, the carved stones. You will start to see the spirals, the world trees, and the sacred wheels everywhere, a hidden conversation happening right before your eyes. Your own engagement is what allows this channel to continue digging into history's greatest puzzles. If this journey resonated with you, please like this video to help others find it. Subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so we can continue these deep dives into lost knowledge together. And I am genuinely curious to know, of all the symbols we have traveled through, which one speaks to you most powerfully. Tell me in the comments which of these 26 ancient symbols you find most fascinating, and share your